Welcome to Intuition Unleashed, a revolution in personal liberation. The go-to podcast that helps you access intuitive guidance combined with mental health and spirituality. Let your intuition guide you and unlock a life of true liberation. And now your host, Becc Nelson.
Hello, everyone. Welcome back to another edition of Intuition Unleashed. It's a revolution in personal liberation. Everybody, I know that you're used to me bringing on people that are in my immediate circle that I know because I have so many talented friends, but also I love this podcast because it gives me the ability to really bring in other people that have very similar energies, that have gifts that I know nothing about or know very little about, can actually educate me. And that is the case today. I'm very grateful to have met my guest today, Kally Hudson. Hi, Kally.
Hello, Becc. Nice to see you today. Nice to be here.
I loved having the ability to meet you, and this is just a great example of how when you have similar energy to somebody, the universe, you attract other people that have that same energy.
Absolutely. Yeah. The universe brings us together.
Exactly. And I'm so grateful that they did. And you were persistent too. And I appreciate that too, because that means you really want to be here. And our guests really deserve to have people that are passionate about their topic and want to be in front of us. So thank you very much. Today we're going to talk today we're going to talk about the Akashic Records. You probably heard about the Akashic Records, but now we're going to talk today, do a deep dive into what they can really do for you. Let me just introduce Kally to you, because she's new to my circle too. She calls herself a transformational leadership and conscientiousness speaker, and the founder of Conversations with Kally. And her website is listed underneath her, and that is actually the name of her website, her URL too. And after more than 30 years as a global executive in the luxury industry, we're going to find out what that means. She experienced a profound and personal awakening that reshaped her understanding of success and purpose and human potential. And it's probably not what you would think. So today she bridges executives leadership with spiritual insight, guiding individuals through reinvention, inner transformation, and alignment with their deeper truth. Her work focuses on how conscientiousness, self-awareness, and unseen patterns influence the way we live, lead, and create impact. And of course, patterns, that's something that we talk about in our show throughout, and it really does show up on the Akashic Records.
Absolutely.
So Kally, welcome. Thank you so much for being here.
Thank you. It's my pleasure.
And I have to tell you that I tell my guests, I want a chance to be able to experience your services too before you come on, because really I'm advocating for, and I'm suggesting that you try them. And I'm obviously not going to do that if I have not had my own experience. Kally was very kind to do a session with me. And honestly, I was blown away. And I think we always find it's the stuff that we already know, but just need that little reminder. I see that a lot in my work all the time.
Absolutely.
So Kally, let me start off by asking you our signature question. I ask all of my guests, if you can, I find that everybody has this pattern, right? There's usually a time in your life that at the time something really may have happened to you, didn't really feel like a gift or a good thing at the time, but now that you're able to look back on it, you can see how it was actually an opportunity for growth and transformation for you. So have you had an experience like that? And if so, can you share that with us?
Absolutely. I would say I've had many experiences like that. And I tend to see life as everything that happens to you sort of happens for you. And I'm not the first person to have that saying, but I really do fundamentally believe that. But since we're talking today about the Akashic Records, I think that what I would share here was what brought me to the Akashic Records and brought me here ultimately today. I remembered a few years ago that I had been sexually abused by my stepfather at a very young age, from the ages of 5 to 7. And he was a man that I loved very, very much, considered him my father. So, and it's something that I suppose for that reason I had completely blocked out. I had created a huge, huge wall and protection around that. remembering. And obviously I was very young, so from 5 to 7, there's a lot of things we don't remember. And so I remember that memory came back to me, flooding back to me in a moment, an evening coming back from work. Was just rearranging my bedroom, doing some feng shui, and came across some photos that he had taken of me, and just remember, to make a long story a little bit shorter, but I ended up in excruciating pain on my bathroom floor, pain in my abdomen, finally remembering what had happened. And so that obviously is not something that I would say I'm happy about, or, that you would look back on and say, oh, what a great thing. But for me, it was a huge revelation. I refer to it as the remembering. And I realized that my entire life had been built around this event, or these events, multiple times, I guess. But in that, because of what had happened to me, I became, in a sense, a perfectionist, and I had such a sense of needing to be loved and needing to be safe and needing to be feeling cared for and protected, that I created a world around myself that was filled with all of this sense of safety and protection. And ultimately, it served me. I mean, it served me in terms of building a great career. I have a beautiful family. I built all of these things around me to feel safe. And it was as a result of that. So, something bad happens, and it created in me this kind of reaction or way of being, way of living, that fundamentally created a life that I'm happy and grateful for having today.
Thank you. I don't ask my guests to share this with me, what they're going to talk about when they come on. First of all, thank you for sharing that with us. That was very raw, and very personal and very intimate. And that was very brave of you to share with us. Thank you very much. I think that a lot of people are going to relate to that similarly, but let's kind of pull this back, because a lot of people would say, how in the world would you say that was going to, that something good came from that? And then how do you shift that perspective later in life? Because when a lot of times what we find, and now, I'm a therapist, so I have a lot of clients that have really bad things happen to them when they're children in particular. And your very foundation is shaken, because these people that are supposed to love you are not safe. And you don't realize that at the time.
Right. Exactly.
Figure out that this is what love looks like, right? Because these are the people that are supposed to show you what love is and what it looks like. Right. But you're also showing us, I think, that what you're saying is that it does create some coping strategies that actually serve you until they don't. Exactly.
And I mean, no, you can never look at something like that and say it's a good thing. I mean, it's such a hard thing how can you consider that it's a good thing? It's a horrible thing. And I still, through all the work that I've done, energetic healing and physical healing, and all the work that I've done in the Akashic Records, which has been my absolute most powerful tool for healing. I still have moments where I'm just overwhelmed with emotion, sadness, fear, etc. All of this, but really, I do have a fundamental belief, and I get this a lot in the Akashic Records, that we choose our life before we come here into this physical existence. So we're talking spiritual concepts here and about reincarnation maybe, but really, one would say, why would you choose that? Well, you choose it to have an experience that is going to help you grow. It's going to help you ascend, because when you overcome something like that, what it requires for you to overcome that brings you to another level in your life that you have never experienced before. So I've experienced the capacity to forgive and to understand what forgiveness is. And that forgiveness is not for my stepfather, it's for me. And so, to be able, it's grace to be able to have that forgiveness and to understand that holding that that pain inside of me is not needed. It's not necessary. I can release that. And by releasing that, I can ascend, like I can grow and I can heal, and I can also share what this experience is with others and help them also to heal and grow. Because I've experienced happiness and joy and levels right now at levels that I'd never experienced in my past before. So,
Wow.
yeah.
That is not a popular concept with a lot of people, that we choose these experiences for our
No.
personal growth. And a lot of people would say, you think I chose that?
Yeah.
You're not going to like my answer.
No, I know. And it's not a conscious decision here in our physical form. Of course, nobody would ever choose that. It makes no sense whatsoever. This is at a soul level. So this is when you're considering that the soul has karmic patterns that it needs to move through, that it needs to understand, that it's balancing out energies. And we are here in this physical life and this human existence to have all kinds of experiences, every single possible experience that you can imagine. And all of that helps us grow, learn, ascend, and enlighten, and become better human beings.
Thank you. That highlights the actual purpose of this show, right? And we all do that in different ways. So thank you for sharing that very raw story with us. That was very brave of you. I know that must have taken. When did this happen? When you had that experience?
This was almost 3 years ago.
So not really that long ago.
Nope, it wasn't.
Now, was that a part of your experience when you started to develop your services? Tell me a little bit more about that.
So yes, it is. I had so I would say over the last six years, especially, I've always been very spiritual, very connected, throughout my life. But over the last 6 years, I really kind of took a deep dive into, connecting with my higher self and trying to really, I knew there was something inside of me that was blocking me, and I could not figure it out. I'd known it my whole life. I'm like, there's a missing link. There's a missing link that I need to find. And I've been doing a lot of different work over the last, several years, 6 years or so. A lot of healing modalities, energetic work, shamanic work, a lot of different work, really to uncover what was ultimately needed, what ultimately needed to be uncovered. And fundamentally, I think I had tried to open the Akashic Records early on in my journey, and I was not able to. And then when I remembered this, a month later, I tried to open the Akashic Records, and I was able to, and I was successful. So it was like boom, boom, one thing right after the other. And within the Akashic Records, I received healing and grace and guidance beyond anything I could have experienced in any other modality or any other, I don't want to say platform, but there's no other place that I would have been able to receive the type of healing that I received. I'm convinced of that. And there's therapy and there's all of those things that are important and can be necessary, especially when you're trying to unravel what this means. But yeah.
I think you're making a good point, right? Because I myself am a therapist, but I also do hypnotherapy. And I think it's never necessarily just one piece that's going to work for everybody. Right. It's a combination of things. And you also mentioned that in that experience, you were having pain in your stomach, your abdomen area.
Yes.
What did that mean to you at the time? Or have you since figured out what that meant for you?
I have, absolutely. So I have stored the trauma at a physical level, obviously, in my, let's call it second chakra, sacral chakra, the abdomen, lower abdomen area. And what happened that evening, and I've had other times where I've had this pain now come back. It was like having somebody was stabbing the inside of my stomach. It's exactly how it felt. I was literally kneeled over on the floor in my bathroom, and I knew that it wasn't like a 911, something is wrong. My intuition knew that this this is from something that has to come out. Like I just knew. And I was fortunate enough to have a friend who is also a healer and a coach. And she was on the phone with me that evening. And she coached me through what was happening, and what ended up, she said, if you could speak to the pain, what would you say? She was having me breathe through it. And at that moment I said, please get off of me, you're hurting me. So, and I saw. So, yeah.
I think a lot of the people that watch this podcast sort of understand what you're saying and believe in this, but there might be some people reading this and saying, what, or listening to this, saying, what are you crazy? But I have also said in previous episodes that when I work with my clients, even in a therapy, mental health capacity, they will put their hands where that trauma or those experiences are actually sitting for them. And they don't even realize they're doing it. And a lot of times they'll be like, oh my gosh, it's, it's, oh gosh, this is so upsetting to me. And they'll put their hands, and I'm like, do you realize that you have your hands on your stomach when you're telling me this? Oh yeah, because it just, I just get such, bloating or whatever. I just get such pain in my stomach. And so they're literally, your intuition is telling you where these emotions are sitting for you. These experiences are sitting and being held.
Mm-hmm.
100%. Emotions are energy and motion. They're not meant to stay there. They're meant for you to work their way through.
Exactly.
And that's what
And we're energetic bodies as well. So we have our physical body, but we have our energetic bodies as well. There's 7 energetic bodies outside of us, as well as our chakra system. We store these traumas everywhere. They get stored at different places depending on, what happened. And so you can clear it energetically, but clearing it physically also, and letting it, as you say, move through you, is absolutely necessary.
Thank you for sharing that. So obviously, after you had that experience 3 years ago, you realized that you couldn't keep doing things that you were doing it the same way. You needed to change that. And was that you were working in what is the luxury?
Yeah, so I've been working in the luxury perfume and cosmetics industry basically for my entire career. My last position was with Hermes, and then before that was the beautiful French company called Sisley. So very high-end skincare cosmetics. That's been my world for 30 years. And it was a beautiful career. It allowed me to travel the world. I had a variety of positions in sales and marketing, global marketing positions, and it's been one of the most beautiful gifts that I could say that I've received in my life, aside from my 2 amazing boys that I love so much. But my career was great, but after remembering all of this, things started to unravel for me. So there was a period of kind of picking up the pieces of me and trying to figure out, how am I going to work through this? How am I going to, what does it mean going forward? And I didn't want to, at this point in my life, I didn't want to feel like I was a victim either. So there was a part of me that was also blocking it, saying, okay, it happened and I'm fine, move on, everything's good. And it just wasn't. And what ended up happening is less than a year later, I had a burnout, full-on burnout at work. I was in a meeting and at the office, and I almost fainted, and I had to, they had brought me to the emergency room and all of this, and there was nothing that they could pinpoint that was wrong. But it was a burnout. I had a complete burnout. It was like, and burnouts are, I'm sure you've also dealt with people with burnouts, but it's really, it's as if you just, my brain was not able to process that my work and my life the way I was living it anymore. And the burnout was a burnout on an emotional level, a mental level, physical level. It just touched every aspect of my life. And I had to stop working. I stopped working for 6 weeks. Initially, I was on a leave of absence for 6 weeks. And throughout all of that, again, I continued to work in the Akashic Records and receive such profound healing. And then ultimately, when I went back to work, I realized I couldn't continue doing that anymore. I had pushed myself to such an extreme with workload and everything that I wasn't able at that point anymore to continue. But I came to this, which is my life purpose, and so I'm beyond happy.
You bringing up another good point, which is there were probably things that did happen along the way to kind of let you know that this job had run its course and it was time for you to move on to the next piece. And our listeners will relate to this because there are little things that happen, and if you ignore them, they get bigger.
Exactly.
And
100%.
then you're in an ambulance on your way to the ER.
Pretty much, exactly. Yeah. And I mean, I've looked after what happened with me. Of course, I was, reading all kinds of information on burnout, and, it's quite classic that what happens, and what happened to me is a sort of classic burnout scenario, let's say. But yes, it's not sleeping properly, or overworking, and you're starting to realize that things in your body are not functioning the way they're supposed to be functioning anymore, and your mind is not processing information anymore the way it used to, and the general fatigue is overwhelming, and then it's just, there's so many different signs, and yeah, you just get to a point where you can't anymore.
There can be different for other people, right? Some people stop eating, some people overeat,
Yeah.
some people sleep too much, some people don't sleep at all. It
Right.
can be different for everybody.
Yes.
So let's get into this. You so you were starting to learn how to do the Akashic Records for yourself. So start off by, for people who don't know a lot about it or confused, just lay out what are the Akashic Records in simple, real terms.
Okay. So the Akashic Records are considered to be the record of the existence of every single living being, every single soul, from the inception of the soul all the way through past, present, and potential futures. The inception of the soul being when the soul separates from all that is and chooses to come in to have all these life experiences, incarnations. So everything that the soul experiences is recorded in the Akasha. What is the Akasha? It's a Sanskrit word that means the substance of life, or the energetic substance of life. And in fact, there's some philosophers and let's call it scientists today. Erwin Laszlo wrote a book on this, and they're starting to measure the Akasha, which they say is this basically the energetic or the life force that is moving through the universe, constantly just gathering and recording all of the existence of everything that is alive. I would say alive, and even not necessarily alive, just the existence of everything that is. And so every soul has their own record. And the record of your soul is also vast if you consider that it covers all of the incarnations your soul may have had. So if I were to, as I did, open your records, Becc, then it's not just the records of Becc, it's I can have access, if need be, to information from your past lives as well, as much as they are pertinent to what you're living today. So, yeah, it's like, for people, if the people want to see it a little bit in easier terms to understand, it's a bit like, the Library of Congress. You go into the Library of Congress, it's massive, the amount of information is massive. So you really have to go in knowing what you're looking for and what you need to understand. And so when I go into the Akashic Records, where I'm accessing the records of your soul, again, we want to really try to pinpoint with specific questions, etc., what you will be learning and what you want to receive. That's one aspect of the Akashic Records.
Are there some other ones that you think would be important for this discussion?
Well, because I've mentioned healing. So when you access the Akashic Records, you're really accessing a very high level of a very high energetic field, let's say. It's the highest energetic field there is, where you really have access to ascended masters. And ascended masters are the souls, or the energy of beings such as Jesus, or all the Buddhas, or Mary, or
Kuan Yin, what, yeah.
Exactly. And so on and so on and so on. Moses, etc. So it's a very, very high level of energy. It's a very high energetic field. And when you open that field and access that field, sort of removing the veil, you are receiving this pure energy of light and love. And that energy comes in through you, and it's transformative, and it's very, very healing. So for me, it really came in and healed so many of my different energetic levels in my body and in my soul, etc., through the Akashic Records.
So in layman's terms, we are, each one of us, each one of our souls has a record of lifetimes that we have lived.
Yeah.
And by the way, those are, people will ask me, is it possible that I could have been a rock in a previous life, or a pet, or a dog? And what I've heard and what my experiences are is that we are, if you are human, you've probably always been a human form, even if you were in a different galaxy.
Yeah. Chances are that's the case. Now, what can happen is if somebody passes on, people sometimes, when they, let's say you lose a loved one, and you may think you connect with a loved one through a bird, like a bird came onto your ledge and you felt like that might have been your past father, for instance. What a soul can do when they do disincarnate or come out of the body, they can reincarnate partially for temporarily into the body of an animal, for instance. So it may be just passing through, just to come in precisely and connect and give a message and have an experience. But that body of the animal cannot or would not necessarily hold the entire soul of that being, per se.
So that's why when you see a cardinal and you say, I feel like that was my dad, it probably was.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay. So I'm seeing this as every one of us has the soul of they have a library, and it's almost like each book sort of represents a different portion or a different lifetime that they've lived in their soul journey.
Yeah. It can a different lifetime, or also it can be karmic patterns, right? Which you carry over from one lifetime to another. So maybe you have a big lesson that you're still learning in this lifetime that you started many lifetimes ago. And so it's something that's carrying on over the course of many lifetimes. So that's also, part of your records.
And is it safe to say that these spiritual beings, these higher beings, can also serve as our librarians?
Yes, in a way, that's a very good analogy. Absolutely. So you have the masters of Akasha. So if I open the Akashic Records, I'm receiving information from the Akashic Records, and that information is being given to me by the masters of Akasha. So the masters of Akasha are ascended beings, enlightened beings. So very, very, very high level, high energetic dimension. And yes, they're the librarians. And then if I want to have specific information on something, let's say I'm coming on here today and I'm going to talk to you, Becc, and I would like to have guidance on how to be the best speaker and the most eloquent speaker today, and to give you the best clear information. I can ask for guidance from a master that's maybe really is knowledgeable and knows how to enlighten me in this matter. So yes, like a librarian that might specialize.
So they know exactly where to take that ladder and put it over here and be like, I have that volume right here. They pull out this dusty thing and
yes,
they bring it down with them. Let's put it on.
Yep. Okay. Something like that. And you can, it's certainly a nice analogy. Yes.
All right. Fascinating. All right. So we are going to be taking a 2-minute break. We're already halfway through, and we're going to start to learn how you actually put this into place, how it started to work for you, and then how you started some examples of how you started to serve others with this as well.
Absolutely. Yes.
So we'll be back right after the break.
Are you ready to break free from self-sabotaging patterns and reclaim your power? I'm Becc Nelson, licensed therapist, spiritual mentor, and psychic medium, helping individuals achieve true personal liberation through my Beccology framework. This step-by-step system shifts your mindset, strengthens your intuition, and empowers lasting change. Work with me through single sessions, 90-day or 6-month programs, or explore my courses, books, and coaching. Visit becknelson.com to get started.
We remember a time when you could simply form a thought and it would manifest. The harmony was forgotten, but it is returning now. The Power of Inspiration and Awakening Radio with Julia will take you on adventures through the heart and spirit, exploring who we once were and how to awaken that power today. Julia studied under the guidance of wolves, learning from their wisdom to master a higher frequency for new state of mind. Learn to master the secrets of manifestation. Visit onetrueself.com.
Are you feeling stuck, drained, or disconnected from your true self? Join Manon DeBerich and Dr. Pat on Aligned Energy, where ancient...
Welcome back, everyone. We are talking to Kally Hudson, and we are talking about the Akashic Records. Am I saying that right? Because you're using a different accent. We ended off with Kally. She's kind of started to tell us about the. I just keep seeing this library. Right,
Yeah.
is the records, and you see like one of those ladders. There's like stacks of books, and then there's this ladder that can go, and the right guide just comes out, and I guess everybody's guide looks different, and it's like, oh yes, I do think I have that right over here for you. Let me access that for you. And maybe they use the Dewey Decimal System. I don't know. Are we dating ourselves here, Kally?
Yes.
So talk about, how did you personally start working with the records? So just kind of bring me to the back of that.
Absolutely. So, again, I had picked up a book on the Akashic Records many years ago, 7, 8 years ago, and this book at the time was on how to open the Akashic Records, and I had tried to open the Akashic Records, and I drew a blank.
Can you thank you for repeating that, because I did want to ask you. You mentioned that previously. What do you mean it didn't work? Like, what did you experience that let you know that it did or didn't open?
I didn't experience anything. So I did the meditation that was recommended in the book, and so the way we access the Akashic Records is through the sacred prayer. So I am now working with the sacred prayer and through not a full-on meditation. You don't have to do that, and I'll explain that in a minute, but I am now able to open the records. And I guess how I can say the difference is when I tried 6, 7 years ago, I did that meditation and the prayer that book recommended, which was not the sacred prayer. I was not, it was like nothing happened. I was just in a state of meditation. I did not feel connected to anybody or anything. I didn't hear anything. I didn't feel any different. It just felt like, I would say, it didn't work. So to me, in my experience at that moment, it was like, okay, that didn't work. And then again, 3 years ago, a friend of mine recommended that same book. And I said, oh, I have that book. Let me try, we'll see. Let me try again, And at that point, prior to opening the Akashic Records, I had already started channeling. So I had started working, and I was communicating or connected with my spirit guides, guardian angels, that type of thing. I had started working with the pendulum. So I was, working with different energies. And so I had become more sensitive to energies and different, and I had understood how I receive messages. So because I had been communicating, like I said, with my spirit guides and guardian angels and things like that through the pendulum specifically. Like I would work with the pendulum on yes, no questions. So yes, the pendulum would turn right. No, the pendulum would turn left. And then from there, it just evolved. And when I opened the Akashic Records this time, 1 month after I remembered, I was able to understand that I was connected to another dimension. I felt a shift, and I felt a shift, and I could understand and feel that I was receiving messages that were not coming from me. And I journaled, by the way. Journaling is a key part of I've always journaled my entire life, so that was already something that I was very used to doing. But as I opened the records, asking questions, because the books also give you a lot of guidance on the types of questions to ask, how to get into this kind of more meditative state, and then the sacred prayer. So the book that I work with and with my teacher is Ernesto Ortiz, and it's the Akashic Records. The book is called the Akashic Records, and basically he does work with the sacred prayer, and through his guidance, I was able really to get into full connection with the Akasha.
I know we're speaking about energy, and a lot of people may not have actually experienced that or realize that they have experienced it. So is there something that you can help people understand, that there was this moment where you realized that this was real for you?
So I'm trying to remember the very, very first time, but I think what happened for me was I received almost immediately it was like a physical I received energy. I received light inside of me. So I had been, in this sort of state of, I don't say disarray, but a state, a state of deep trauma at that point from remembering what had happened. And it was as if I had been, it was if as I was sitting and receiving a beam of light just coming through and cleaning my entire energetic body, my physical body. I felt it. I felt it physically. I felt it energetically. And I was just sitting there like as if I was bathed in this divine light. It was absolutely something, I can't, there was no doubt. There was no doubt that something was happening. And I was not, it wasn't just, a regular, like I wasn't in a meditative state. I was receiving healing. And that happened many times for me. And I'll tell you that sometimes it was so powerful. I could sit there for an hour and just receive this. And I felt like I was in nirvana. I was in heaven. I would sit there with my eyes closed going, oh my God, like I was so beyond grateful and in a state of receiving grace, divine grace, healing me. And I don't know if my words are explaining this enough, but that's how I knew.
I think people have to have, it's different for everybody, right? But I think that's
Yes.
a good, and I'm getting chills as I'm listening to this story. Our listeners might be as well.
Yeah.
And okay, so you actually can access your own records.
Yes.
And then you decided to actually add on a service to be able to do the same for other people.
Absolutely. So, as I mentioned, my teacher, Ernesto Ortiz, he's probably one of the most renowned teachers of the Akashic Records in the world today. And he's been doing this for 40 years. He's been working in the Akashic Records, 30 years, 30 plus years working in the Akashic Records as a consultant originally and as a teacher. And so when I started to work in the records, and I was so overwhelmed with what I was receiving. And I knew that of all the modalities and everything that I had done up until now, which were beautiful, again, I mean, breath work, shamanic work, energy healing, Reiki, all of that was wonderful, but nothing came close to this. This was just an experience that was beyond anything I had ever felt before. And I knew it was healing me because I would leave these sessions that I would have for myself in such a state of bliss. And I could, continue my day and go to work and everything in spite of everything that I had remembered. And also I was journaling. And so I was receiving information and guidance on how to process everything that I was remembering. And so last year, I finally decided to go to a retreat that my teacher was teaching in Bali for 4 weeks.
Wow.
And it was an Akashic Record intensive retreat. And during those 4 weeks, I learned how to read the records of others as well, how to read and interpret and continue to do healing for myself as well. So it was an amazing, amazing experience. So coming back from there, I started really working with others and offering this beautiful gift that I consider to be amazing.
Wow. Now, a lot of times, when we've talked, you were saying that one of the things that the Akashic Records is great about is help us to reveal our patterns.
Yes.
So talk a little bit about what the records can reveal about patterns, and why do we need to know these things anyway?
Yes. So, the records will help reveal all kinds of patterns, addictive patterns, relationship patterns. Those are very, very important. We have limiting beliefs, a lot of limiting beliefs that we've taken on from our childhood that we carry through our life, and they're unconscious. A lot of this is unconscious. And we take on relationships, and we continue to have the same patterns in relationships, and those patterns, they don't serve us, and we don't necessarily recognize them or see them. Perhaps we might have an intuition about it. Maybe we do, maybe we don't. Maybe it's just really unconscious, and it's underlying our actions, it's underlying the way we're living our life. And it's bringing us at one point, maybe these patterns or these ways of being served us, such as, myself, we're talking about, this perfectionist, overworking attitude, in a sense, served me to build a great career, but then it no longer served me. It does not serve me at all anymore. And I recognize when I'm taking on that sort of persona again, those characteristics, those patterns again of being perfectionist and overworking, etc. And I get, no, you can't do that anymore. So the Akashic Records really help you to identify them and to see them consciously. So they bring them to the surface consciously, and then also to give you guidance on how they've affected your life and how can you change them. What are you going to put in place of these patterns? What new things do you want to bring into your life?
That is, I feel like, missing in a lot of treatment, even with other therapists that I've seen. We heal this, but what are we going to fill that with? That's a missing piece, I believe. So are you saying that our souls continue throughout each incarnation to have the same pattern until we heal it?
They can. Absolutely, they can. Until you heal it and you bring it to the light of consciousness and heal and move and allow it to truly move through you. And that healing takes place at many different layers and levels. But yes, for sure, there are things that if you don't work through it in this lifetime, you will come back in the next lifetime and have to deal with the same issue, the same pattern. I mean, there's a lot of people that are not doing the work, are not necessarily digging in and trying to figure out the missing links that they may have. And they end up, on their deathbed with lots of regrets about their life because they haven't taken the steps to improve, to find, to forgive. Forgiveness is so important. To forgive others, forgive themselves, to see their responsibility in their lives. And if they haven't, whatever they haven't cleared on their deathbed is going to come back with them in the next lifetime.
And these are things that are revealed during these readings.
Yes, absolutely.
What do you see that most clients are surprised to discover during a reading?
I think it's something you touched on at the beginning. Most people that come to this work already have a certain opening and have already started doing a certain amount of work on themselves, and so they're already attuned to themselves and to their higher self, and they already have a very strong inclination and idea about what needs to be adjusted, cleared, allowed to process through them. So what is, I guess, surprising or whatever is that what they know is what comes up. And so it's like, oh, I know that. Okay. So, it reinforces something you already know, but at the same time, it's not just about going in and saying, oh, okay, here's something you already know. Then what's the point in that? Then the next level is, okay, so here's something you know. Now what do we do with it, as I just said? And here's where you ask key questions. How can I move forward from this? What steps do I need to take? What more do I need to learn from this? How can I find healing through this pattern? Where does this pattern come from? What is it teaching me? And how can I move through it? There's a lot of answers and a lot of information that can come through if you ask the right
Honestly,
questions.
that was what I feel like really came from my own personal session. Yes, there's this, oh yeah, I kind of already knew that. But from your perspective, because I know as a therapist what my answer is, right? Why do people ignore these things that they already know?
Well, because like I said, a lot of times they don't. A lot of times it's unconscious. So what you think it's an intuition, right? You're connected to your higher self, and somewhere here, somewhere here, you're getting these like signals that you know what you should be doing, but you're not doing it because it's not loud and clear, and nobody's come to you and said, this is what you need to do. And also, you're acting right now in a way that you have put in place from probably a long time. These are habits that at some point in your life, it served you to be that way. And so you've put that in place and you continue to repeat the same pattern because you think that's what's going to work. It's not like you stop and ask yourself, is this still working for me, when it's unconscious and you don't necessarily know where it came from in the first place. Once it becomes conscious, then you can choose differently.
If I think about sort of examples, from your own experiences, but the the clients that I deal with too, it's an example might be from my work, somebody who keeps picking a relationship, like a woman who keeps picking a relationship with a man who's abusive or really doesn't, and they are like, I thought I was going to be different this time, and it's just the same pattern. And what is that feeling about what you need to heal? What messages are you telling yourself?
Yeah.
And you're saying, kind of like, you go into the Akashic Records and they'll say, here's the pattern.
Yeah. But the beautiful thing also is they'll say, here's the pattern, but on top of that, there's healing that's happening. There's healing that's happening at levels that we're not aware of or conscious of. And so when somebody has a reading, if I read for somebody, I cannot read for them again for 3 months, unless they come to me with a question that has not been addressed in the first reading. But if it's the same type, same topic, same questions, we have to wait 3 months. Why? Because over the course of those 3 months, it's going to integrate within you what happened, what you learned, what was said. You're going to start taking actions differently. You're going to make different choices. But beyond that, divine energy is going to start making things happen and move in your life in a way that you did not have before opening the Akashic Records.
Without that awareness.
Yeah, without the awareness. But beyond that, it's also this divine synchronicity. You're accessing divine energy. And now that veil has been lifted, things will start moving in your life to facilitate you learning the lessons that you're supposed to learn or experiencing what you need to experience.
Interesting. Okay. We've also talked about, Kally, that the Akashic Records is not the same as a psychic reading.
Oh. No, very different. Yeah, that could be a very big misconception. So, no, I'm not. When I open the Akashic Records, I am most definitely not here to tell you your future. And it's not like a psychic reading or a tarot reading or whatever. It is nothing like that. It's guidance at the highest level. You're receiving healing energy, and it's helping you to remove that illusion of separation from source energy. But no, it's definitely not a psychic reading. So if you come in asking, is my relationship the right relationship? Is this the right person? Are we going to get married? That's not the point of it. And I don't know what type of answers I would get for that. I would get an answer that will certainly reflect back to you, well, what do you see in this relationship and what are you here to learn from it?
I see. Okay, so what is some insight that is very specific to the Akashic Records that you wouldn't get in like a tarot reading or a psychic reading?
Well, there's a few things. So again, I mentioned that the Akashic Records is the very highest dimension energetic field, highest energetic field dimension that there is. So when you're working with a psychic or a tarot reading or whatever, you're accessing the etheric plane. The etheric plane is below the Akasha in terms of energy level. So within the etheric plane, you will have access to spirit guides, you'll have access to guardian angels, and below that, you also have the astral plane, which you can access if you're not careful. The astral plane is where you would have darker energies and souls that have not passed on to the light and are stuck there. So when you're opening up, like a psychic can connect with people that have died, past loved ones, etc., maybe to your spirit guides that'll come in, or angel guides that'll come in, but there can be imposters as well coming in and posing as your passed on father, for instance. There's risks in that sense. And then they can say whatever they feel like in that way. They're not necessarily of the highest level. So when I'm opening the Akashic Records, we are in a protected field of light and love, of divine energy. And so what you're receiving is guidance from divine energy. It's protected guidance. And so very different from what a psychic will receive. The psychics not necessarily accessing the Akashic Records, unless they are specifically opening up the Akashic field with the sacred prayer, etc. But generally speaking, if you're not working in the sacred prayer, there's maybe 10% of people that can access the Akashic Records spontaneously like that without using or going through the process of working through the sacred prayer, because it's a very protected field. So it's not meant to be just accessed like that by anybody.
Okay, so if someone wanted to start doing this, would you recommend that they first have their own reading to sort of begin to get that experience?
So yes, there's obviously, I offer reading. So let's say I would, like I did for you, I can do a reading and they would have an idea of what that feels like and looks like. And then if it's something that they're called to and they would like to learn how to read their own Akashic Records, then I would they can start by reading Ernesto Ortiz's book, where he does explain everything about the Akashic Records and how to open your Akashic Records. So they could start with that, which is how I started. And from there, however, I would definitely recommend attending what's called the level 1 Akashic Records training, where you really learn to access the records through a certified teacher. And you would also receive the sacred prayer in a ceremony, and that's another it's another level of opening, really.
And when somebody does, what would you say are the main benefits of having a Akashic Records reading, whether you want to do it for yourself or not?
Again, it's receiving guidance from the highest level. So you can't receive better guidance from anyone anywhere. So if I'm going through anything, whatever it may be, rather than asking a friend or my parents or my mother, or whoever, or even a psychologist or therapist, my first go-to is going to be the Akashic Records, because I know that they're not, the wisdom that is available within the Akashic Records is beyond anything that I can access here in the physical plane. The wisdom that I will receive, I know, is the absolute best guidance. If I'm able to follow the information and the guidance that I receive in the Akashic Records, my life is going to just go on into the best possible life ever. And honestly, then that's how I experienced it.
What I loved about my experience with you, what I didn't expect, that I haven't gotten from other energy healers, was very specific guidance. Like, I really am interested in this and I really like this. And they were kind of like, that's fine, you can explore it, but it's not your main focus. You really should be putting your energy here. And that was very valuable to me to say,
yeah,
where should I be putting my energy?
Yes, absolutely.
And my resources. That was very helpful to me. Yeah. And again, it's usually like, okay, I kind of already knew that. Right.
Yeah, also, yeah. But now, when you have the Akashic Records and you have access to the Akashic Records, you know that you have this guidance right here, just there at your not beck and call, but at your, service, so that they're there for us. And that is, I mean, it's the most amazing, most powerful tool that you can have, or you can give yourself in your life, as far as I'm concerned. And I have experienced many, many different modalities and healings and so forth, and nothing has come close to this.
So let's wrap up, because believe it or not, we're already done, Kally. I'm so
Unbelievable.
excited for our time today. I know. So Kally's actually offering a discount code for our listeners. Can you just talk about that?
Yes, absolutely. So I'm offering a 15% discount on my regular rate for an Akashic Records reading. And the Akashic Records readings are about an hour to an hour and a half, depending on the questions. So if that's of interest to you, you can get in touch with me either, I think the information is listed below, but through my website, or contact me directly. And I will help you prepare for this session so you get the most out of the session possible. And you would prepare questions and so forth. And so, yes, I'm offering a 15% discount.
That is wonderful. Thank you so much. The code was intuition.
Oh, yeah, intuition. Thank you. Yes.
And underneath her name is Kally's website, Conversations with Kally. I want to thank you for enlightening us. And I really loved my reading. I felt like it gave me guidance, some things that I kind of suspected and knew, and some things that I think were very new to me, things I didn't.
Yes.
And I thought it was very helpful. And I actually walked away with like this sense of hope that I think I was struggling with a little bit. And they just like,
yes.
they knew Kally, and they put us together.
Yes, that's wonderful.
So let Kally be a light for you as well. Thank you so much for all your guidance today and for joining us today. We really appreciate you, Kally.
Likewise. Thank you so much, Becc, for creating this space and this opportunity to share about the Akashic Records today.
Thank you so much for being very dearly.
Thank you.
Just remember, when you tune into your intuition, you are pulling your power back inside you. Kally, thank you so much. We'll see you all next time, everybody. Good night.
Bye-bye.
Thanks for tuning into this episode of Intuition Unleashed. We hope you found it informative and thought-provoking. But before you go, we have one little challenge for you. Most of us have sneaky little habits that hold us back and trip us up, so why not take this not at all uncomfortable quiz to find out what you do to derail yourself from achieving your goals, and how you can call yourself out on your own BS. So get to know your self-sabotage specialty and take the first step towards getting out of the way of your own success. Just visit https:/becknelson.com/quiz and take the quiz now. That's becknelson.com/quiz, and we can't wait to see your results. As always, we'll be back next week with more Intuition Unleashed. We appreciate you. Thanks for listening.